All right, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the last card show that we just vended at. Hi, my name is Josh. I run Monster Moss Studio with my wife Nicole. We're an online Pokemon card business specializing in Japanese and Chinese Pokemon cards. So, yeah, we just got back from our last card show. We've been hitting it pretty hard. I would say almost every single weekend, sometimes twice a weekend. So 2 shows a weekend, which is pretty intense, but it's been a lot of fun. And I mean, why not take advantage of the card market as it's being crazy right now? So just for funsies, let's look at some numbers. Well, I'll just talk about some numbers, I guess. We had, I guess I'll start out with how much inventory we brought along. Um, I think that that's sort of pertinent in the idea that, I mean, we started, I would say, maybe 2.5K. So not a lot of stuff. That was kind of a mix of singles and a little bit of Japanese sealed. And we have now built our singles inventory up to like 7.7K in the last, what are we in now? July. So it's been 8 months. We've been able to, I guess that's what, over 3x our singles inventory. Not bad considering I'm a 38-year-old Midwesterner. Um, and then our sealed, I'll do sealed numbers too while I got it. Everything's in my Excel. 3.4K in sealed, variety of Japanese, Chinese boxes, and we did expand a little bit into One Piece and Lorcana, so testing to see how those go. Might as well just capture the market on the hype for of all TCGs, not just Pokemon. Obviously, 99% of what we have is still Pokemon related. And we have 1.7K in merch. So figurines, like card cases, other kind of cool collectibles for Pokemon. I would say anything that comes from like Pokemon China more specifically, so we haven't gotten crazy. And there's tons of stuff you could get, like all these ancillary products that are like unofficial and all that kind of stuff. We don't really have any of those because again, it's like a huge rabbit hole of potential like junk you can get and like resell and stuff. But these are like official from Pokemon China. They have Pokemon packs in them kind of thing, or they're just figurines that are collab between like Pokemon China and like the manufacturer of the figurines. So yeah, again, so I guess if I want to do some quick math, I would say, what I say for seal, 1.7 in merch. I would say 3.4 in sealed, and then finally, so we're looking at a roughly like 12.8K in total value across single, sealed, and merch. I mean, that's not too bad considering we started with like 2, 3. So we 6x'd our inventory in the last 8 months. So wild, man. I mean, yeah, it's just, that's crazy to think about. We've had to double the size of our singles case. We had like a small one, and we now have a big one. I can't fit everything on a 6-foot table anymore. I can't fit anything on an 8-foot table anymore. So now we have to get 2 tables probably from here on out. I've been hoping to stick with 1 table, but it just doesn't make sense just with the amount of stuff that we got to display. I mean, we did get one of those collapsible 4-tier shells, and that thing is full. And so I filled the table. I'm overflowing. I got the shelf that I put up every show. That thing's full and overflowing. So then there's just stuff I just don't put out because I just don't have the space on the table and or the shelf. So it's now time to expand into 2 tables. We could potentially get a second case. We're working on getting our custom risers in, and we have one batch of custom risers that we use. We're working on getting a second batch because we're thinking of getting a second case for singles because it kind of just makes sense to do so, which means we for sure need 2 tables. Yeah, it's been absolutely wild, which means really if I go up to 2 tables, I really need Nicole to vend a lot more. So that means we really need babysitting for kids so that she can come along. So yeah, it's been crazy. Anyway, let's talk about the show that we just did. Let's see, I'll do, I guess, numbers on sold first. Well, I'll start with where we were. So we were in Vernon Hills, Illinois, which is kind of a north suburb of Chicago. It's at the Hawthorne Mall, which is, I mean, for Midwest standards, outside of like the Chicago area, it's a very fancy mall. This is not a mall that is like dying off or like there's a bunch of stores empty. This is a very, very, very nice mall, I guess, in my standards. So it's a mall show. I did it in June, I think. And I would say that I think I overheard there's 110 tables in the June show, and then this July one, I think I overheard there was like 300. So that's pretty. I mean, they almost 3x the show within a month. So that's pretty crazy. It's also the only mall show that we've ever done. Normally they're in different like community centers or like event centers, that hotels, that kind of thing. So we've never done them. This is the one and only mall show that we have now done. And definitely a different vibe, I would say. The first time we did it, people, I felt unprepared for there to be a card show. Like they knew there was one. They didn't like bring binders for trading. They didn't bring stuff to sell. They were just straight up kind of buying, which is great. But this one in July, they definitely felt like they came more prepared. So we had a lot more trading. We had a lot more people selling cards, and so kind of, it felt more of like a real card show and less of just people just straight up shopping. But you do pick those up too, which is actually kind of nice. People are there to obviously shop at the mall. So, I mean, it makes sense if you want to shop at all these like cards, vendors as well. And I mean, we brought tons and tons of stuff. I guess I'll go like numbers. I think we sold, let's see, like 866 in singles. We sold 1085 in sealed, and we sold 585 in merch. So not like astronomical numbers. Let's see, that's total 15 plus 8, 23, 24. We'll just say 24, in gross revenue for the entire show. So pretty good, I would say. Obviously, you got to factor in like cost basis of all the sealed stuff, merch, the singles themselves, and travel. I mean, it's a 3-hour drive round trip, so 6 hours of driving. Unfortunately, I drive a tank, so not fuel efficient whatsoever. Which we're working on that. Which ironically, the Pokemon card business is working on saving funds to purchase a car down the road, which is crazy that that's even possible doing this, but it's definitely possible. So that's pretty great. Yeah. So back to the show. So we're bringing tons of Chinese and Japanese booster boxes. That's always been the main focus for us. That continues to be the main focus after the big price hike, which I've talked about like a couple months ago. In the Japanese stuff, we had to pivot pretty hard. And it's kind of one of two ways, I would say. You can either pivot into English, which is more desirable and more liquid, arguably, but it's also more expensive, and sourcing it is really hard. I have no good way of sourcing English stuff without straight up scalping. And that's just kind of been the bedrock of what we're doing, is not wanting to do that. And I don't care what anybody says about it. And we have our opinions about it, but it's just not a practice we wanted to do. Maybe that'll be to our detriment or whatever, but I don't care. So, and mostly why, so we then pivoted into Chinese stuff. And I did have access to that, and a more consistent and reliable sourcing for product for Chinese stuff. And that's more why I pivoted into that, as well as, I guess, in general too, our philosophy has always been to gear more towards the collector and less towards like other, investors. Not that there's nothing wrong with investing in Pokemon or investing in other TCGs. Not what we're saying. All I'm saying is like, we like having cards that are like singles that are 50 and under, and we like having affordable booster boxes for people to rip. That's more what we're interested in. And paying $35 for a Chinese box, so people can rip for funsies, that's more what we're kind of like after. And I will say too, obviously I see tons of English sealed around. I see all the prismatic, all the Destin Rivals, all the Ascended Hero stuff. And I mean, tons of other stuff, but I don't see it move a lot. I see a lot of vendors bring it. It's very clear that you got it from wherever, or in the case of like older stuff, obviously you took it in on trade or you bought it or whatever. And I just don't see it getting bought up, at least around, or just around here. Of course, online that's a totally different like shtick, but 160 bucks or whatever it is, 200 bucks for a Destin Rivals ETB. I see those at the card shows that I'm going to, and I see vendors bring them, and I see vendors take them home, and that's just dead money. If you're not moving it, it's it's just dead money. So I see all the EX boxes, I see all the tins, I see all the the blister packs. I see all that stuff, and I see almost none of it move. I don't see people carrying it around like they just bought it. Ascended Hero bundles, sure. Ascended Hero stuff, that pretty much is almost guaranteed to move. But even the ATB, whatever it is now, 200 bucks, like it's just that's a lot of money. So yeah, that's just our philosophy, is pivot into something more affordable, a little more exotic as well, and just for the back for the funsies of Pokemon, and less about like worrying about investing and selling and trying to get the hit for resale and grading and all that. Just back into ripping packs, getting cool cards, and calling it a day. I guess that was just more our philosophy. So we're bringing more of that kind of stuff into every show, just as much as we can reasonably get in, and learning about these products that are really cool, like like Terrestrial Gathering just dropped in. That's the Chinese version of Prismatic, so we get that in. It's not just booster boxes, although we do have those, but it's also like these badge sets and these keychain sets and these like tins, all of which are collectible. They have a rarity scale for the product themselves, and then like a common and a rare version of all those little collectibles. Plus there's packs. So there's just this added level of fun outside of just like ripping singles and, worrying about market value. So yeah, it's just been super fun to like bring those things in and just to have people, just for the love of the hobby and all that kind of deal. So yeah, we're definitely seeing, I would say, pretty good success with that. And obviously people are very interested in, the foreign boxes because they're a little bit different. The Chinese ones, the Japanese ones are pretty straightforward. Especially now in like the Mega Block, it's pretty much a 1-to-1 across the board. So, and prices for Japanese stuff is now coming back down. It's still not awesome, but it's definitely better than what it was. So that's great. At one point, we just straight up stopped bringing in Japanese stuff because no one's going to rip Mega Dream for 150, 160 a box, at least not around here. So yes, the goal is to like promote the website, and we're trying to continue to pump that. But in the meantime, at these card shows, no one's going to drop 150, 160 bucks, which is what I would have to charge 2 months ago for Mega Dream. And that's just with my little 5-10% margin on there. That's not me, you know what I mean, like jacking it up to make a bigger margin. Nope, margin stays the same. That's just how much it cost, the base cost plus tariff plus shipping, brought it all the way up, and I'd have to charge 150 just to make sure I didn't lose money. So that's now coming back down, which is fantastic because we really like the Japanese boxes, and for us they're the most fun to rip, and we like the guaranteed hits. The card quality is a lot better, so it just kind of makes sense for us to like it makes sense for us to bring those in because they're fun, but also like I'm just really glad that the prices are coming back down so we can sell them much more affordably. And of course, all the Chinese boxes, again, they're just much more affordable. Plus those Chinese exclusives, not just in the gem boxes, but also in like some of the newer sets. There's exclusive chases, the mouse hold, all the different trainers, all that kind of stuff. But they also like merge a bunch of English sets together, which is a lot of fun. It makes explaining these boxes a bit challenging while at the table. Like, yes, this box is a combination of Surging Sparks, Twilight Masquerade, and Shrouded Fable. Oh, that's that's a weird, like, amalgamation of sets. But yeah, just what they're doing for fun. So yeah, it's definitely a good show for sure. I mean, the hype is still there. I guess we've talked about summer slowdown or something like that, and this is our first summer that we would be heading into vending, so I can't super speak to that. Maybe that's true, but I mean, this last show, it was July 5th, so it's one day after Independence Day, and yet, we still did like reasonably well. We still sold a bunch of stuff. We still traded in a bunch of stuff. We still bought a bunch of singles. They had enough vendors for 300 tables, which is good and bad, I would say. I think that's starting to get a little too big, just because you're just when people say the whole like, oh, like I'm gonna do a lap and be back. Like, no, you're not. Not at 300 tables. Like, you're not gonna meander your way around and then meander your way back. Like, no, you're not. Like, that's too much. Like, visually, noise, people, all that kind of jazz. So, but that's totally fine. It's just kind of it's one of those like funny, like ironic vendor moments where it's like, I know how big this show is, and it's funny that you think you're gonna come back, because like you're just not. You're gonna get, by the end of 300 tables, you're gonna be mentally exhausted and you're gonna be done. So, yep. I would say like so far we've been branching out more into the Illinois side of where we are, less into Iowa. Nothing wrong with Iowa. It's just they're not quite as open to the like Chinese, Japanese boxes and ripping those. I don't know. I have my hypothesis. Just Iowa has lower income. When you get closer to Illinois and Chicago, there's just more money. So people are more willing to like gamble or take spend fun money, get a fun cost on ripping a Chinese or Japanese box. But yeah, so I mean, I guess in the end, you just kind of go wherever it makes sense. You don't force a market where like it doesn't exist. So if we're intentionally focusing on bringing in these Japanese, Chinese boxes, it doesn't make sense for us to continually push Iowa shows if they're just not like working as well. So it makes sense if it's like, don't make things harder by intentionally going to Iowa shows that aren't as open to these. If Illinois is just more open to Japanese, Chinese boxes, well, path of least resistance, it's that idea. So that's just been so far our experience, I would say. And I mean, we get, yeah, tons and tons of interest. So it's fun to like, educate everybody on what's happening in Pokemon China and Japan, and it's crazy. There's tons of new stuff coming out all the time, and not just booster boxes, not just new sets or whatever, but just cool new ancillary products that are just fun to collect and have and whatever. What else we got? Yeah, I guess I would say I mean, I'm not really seeing the hype like calming down. I mean, obviously everyone's getting ready for the Rayquaza set coming out. Everyone's getting ready for 30th. But in the meantime, like people are still transacting. People are becoming aware of the Chinese stuff. People are asking me all the time for Chinese exclusives, all the gem boxes. So everybody's open to like what's happening. Our Facebook Marketplace sales are like through the roof. I get like at least 6 DMs every single day asking for boxes. We brought in Chinese One Piece, and I sold 2 of those, just 4 boxes. PRB1 and OP15. I sold PRB1, both boxes at the card show, and I just sold OP15 on Marketplace yesterday. Again, like their OP15 I think is 225, 250, something like that, and the Chinese box is $65. So it's a very affordable, fun rip. It's a what is that, a quarter? It's a quarter of the cost of the English box. So if you don't care about playing the game, or if you like playing the game but you also like just ripping packs for funsies and collecting cards, again, just, you know, the Chinese box is just so affordable. It's hard to be like angry about it, because even if you hate it, it's just like, well, it's only $60. So yeah. And then we brought in Japanese Lorcana because we ripped some English Lorcana, and that's a lot of fun. I mean, you know, I know all these Disney movies. I know all these shows. I'm old enough to have seen like pretty much all the Disney movies, especially the older ones. Nicole knows all the Disney stuff too, so that's fun. So having the Japanese stuff, which is, again, astronomically more affordable in contrast to the English stuff, especially now that the hype train has run into the Lorcana station and jacked up all the stuff there. Yeah, that's fun too. So yeah, definitely, basically, we're expanding. I'm not seeing a slowdown on card stuff. I wouldn't say it's skyrocketing, but it's definitely maintaining. And we're just continuing not just to expand into Pokemon, all the cool goodies coming out from there, but OP like Lorcana. I mean, it's just all good. That's what I would have to say about that. So thanks everybody for watching. If you guys want to check out our website, monstermothstudio.com, there is a little whatever, how you spell it down there. Link will be in the description. If you want to check out all these cool goodies we got, they'll all be on our website. Thanks again.